All right, there's some breaking news that's coming in. The Supreme Court will hear today a review petition filed by Karti Chidambaram. This is in connection to the PMLA case. A three-judge bench led by the CJI will hear the review plea inside the chamber, and the verdict had in fact given sweeping powers to the Enforcement Directorate for arrest, search and seizure. So the Supreme Court today will hear a review plea which has been filed by Karti Chidambaram, and a three-judge bench led by the CJI will hear the review plea inside the chamber. The verdict had given sweeping powers to the Enforcement Directorate for arrest, search and seizure. So big breaking update there. The Supreme Court will hear the review plea on the PMLA verdict. So the Supreme Court will hear the review plea which has been filed by Karti Chidambaram. A three-judge bench led by the CJI will hear the review plea inside the chamber. And remember, the verdict had given sweeping powers to the ED for arrest, search and seizure. And my colleague Harish is joining us live on the broadcast for more on this. Harish, if you could please take us through the details. What is expected in court today?
Yes, that's right. Three-judge bench headed by Chief Justice N.V. Ramana, Justices Dinesh Maheshwari and C.T. Ravikumar will hear the petition filed by Congress leader and accused in the INX media case, Karti Chidambaram, seeking a relook and review of the July 27 judgment of the Supreme Court, which had in fact upheld amendments in the PMLA Act that gave sweeping powers to the ED vis-a-vis arrest, search, seizure and using confessional statements before ED officials. In the review petition, Karti has said there are glaring error on the face of the record, and the judgment upheld various provisions which are in violation of principles of natural justice, right to a free and fair trial, and one which forces a person to be a witness against oneself, giving self-incriminating evidence. So the review petition will be heard at 1:20 p.m. in chamber as per the procedure, and along with the review plea, Chidambaram has also attached two separate applications seeking permission for the matter to be heard in open court, and there is another application seeking stay of the top court judgment of July 27. So today, during the hearing in chamber, if the bench prima facie feels that there is a merit in the review plea, it can order for an open court hearing. On that day, it can even issue notice to the ED and the center and decide whether to stay the July 27 judgment as requested and prayed by Karti Chidambaram. Remember, Karti Chidambaram, who had immediately after the July 27 judgment said the ED had become a weapon of mass destruction, has cited in his review plea more than 40 grounds to legally challenge the judgment, arguing that the reasoning of the top court was flawed and erroneous and was contrary to the settled decision by the Supreme Court in various matters. In fact, it also contended that the verdict violated the constitutional guarantees protected by apex court judgment in the past. So, all eyes on the Supreme Court three-judge bench led by Chief Justice when the review petition will be considered at 1:20 p.m. today. Back to the studios.
For our viewers who are just tuning in, if you could also please tell us about the judgment which the top court had made on July 27.
Yes, as I said earlier on, in the July 27 judgment, the Supreme Court bench led by Justice A.M. Khanwilkar, who has since retired, had given sweeping powers to the Enforcement Directorate by upholding various recent amendments in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and had given sweeping powers to the investigating agency vis-a-vis the power to arrest, search, seize and also use confessional statements which the review petitioner Karti Chidambaram has now in fact challenged. In fact, the Supreme Court had upheld each of the argument made by the center, which had said that there are enough safeguards, and even just because these provisions are in contrary to the criminal procedure code does not mean that they have to be struck down. And only thing to be looked into is whether they are constitutionally compliant. And Supreme and even Solicitor General Tushar Mehta even argued for the ED that there are enough safeguards. All the documents on the basis of which an arrest is made kept before the presiding judge, who can peruse it and decide whether to send a particular accused for remand or not. So this argument was made by the Solicitor General, countering the argument that under these amendments, a person, an accused, need not be given proper explanation as to what is the ground of under which he has been arrested, and even the FIR copy does not have to be given to him. So Supreme Court had in the July 27 judgment upheld all these provisions, stringent provisions, and given ED very sweeping powers as far as seizure, arrest, and attachment of property, and also using confessional statement is concerned.
Right, Harish. Many thanks for taking our viewers through all those details. All right, I'm now being joined by Majid Memon, who is a senior lawyer on the broadcast. Many thanks, Mr. Memon, for joining us here on Mirror Now. Sir, what are your views on the news that is just breaking as of now, that the Supreme Court will hear a review plea which was filed by Karti Chidambaram over the PMLA verdict, which was pronounced by the court on July 27?
Well, July 27, 500 plus pages judgment on PMLA has created a lot of doubts in the minds of people, and particularly in legal circle, we have seen that there are reactions coming from eminent legal brains of the country that PMLA, this particular judgment, has raised several questions and controversies with regard to the powers of ED, as also the interpretation of certain provisions under PMLA Act. If you recall, some time ago, 6 months or so, you see, there were noises that ED officials and CBI officials are abusing their power. And this was said by no other than the Honorable Chief Justice of India, the current Chief Justice of India, who is laying office down today or tomorrow, Justice Ramana. And he had also suggested there is a need to have a monitoring committee to check the powers of ED officials. In such background, it was expected that this marathon hearing of multiple petitions which came to be decided on the 27th of July by the three-judge bench, rather than examining the possibility of clipping the abuse of powers, which was the hue and cry of all over the country, they have rather given greater heights to the powers of ED officials, which unfortunately has not been approved by the legal circle in the country today. And therefore, there was a big noise that this judgment needs to be challenged in the larger bench or maybe taken up for review. And rightly, Supreme Court has taken up. And it appears that now once Supreme Court will re-examine the findings recorded by 27th July's order, may be re-examined.
Right, Mr. Memon, many thanks for joining us here on Mirror Now and sharing your views.